Well, as we look back on more than 50 years of broadcasting high school sports in the Kankakee Valley here on WKVI, our guest is Phil Tom, a 1971 graduate of West Central High School, and we call this segment, Where Are They Now? So, Phil, where are you now, and what are you doing?
Well, that's a simple question, but probably would take a pretty long answer. But right, I'm presently living in Las Vegas, Nevada right now. And for the last 38 years, I've been managing portfolios, managing money.
So
but it was a long way. I never thought growing up in Indiana that I'd ever live anyplace out west. And as it came about, I lived not only in Arizona, Los Angeles, Boise, Idaho, Seattle for over 20 years. And I ended up in Las Vegas, which I really like.
What took you out west?
Basketball gave me all the notoriety for scholarship offers and things, mainly. Although there was a number of schools that offered me full rides for baseball, and so I wanted to do both. I felt I might have a shot at professional baseball, but basketball probably not so much. But I accepted a scholarship offer to New Mexico, but they had an affiliation with a junior college in Prescott, Arizona called Yavapai College. And every baseball player there was a pro draftee. And the basketball team was also very, very good. But Yavapai ended up winning the Nationals in junior college baseball numerous times in the 70s and 80s. But once it got me out west, I'm a little different in most of my high school classmates back in Francisville, which I sure loved that upbringing. But I knew that once I graduated, I probably was going to go somewhere and probably leave the state. I'm the youngest of 6 in my family, and all of us went and got a degree elsewhere, mostly out of the state, I guess, yeah. And we sure liked visiting back. My mom was still alive, but for the most part, we got spread out all over the country. But once I got west and played baseball and basketball in Prescott, I got a little homesick, and I went back to University of Evansville and on the scholarships. And but I knew that there was something I really liked about the West Coast. And once I graduated from University of Evansville and went west, I never looked back.
Well, you are still number 5 on the all-time scoring list in basketball at West Central after all of these years, and you played in a lot of exciting games of all the sports you played in. Looking back, of all the games you played in at the high school level, which one do you still remember all these years later? Which one do you remember most?
My junior year, my last game before the sectional, my junior year, we went up and played Oregon Davis. That night, I made a 20-footer at the buzzer to win by 1 point, and set the school record at the time of 37 points. That game was certainly a very, very memorable.
And that was at the old Tyner gym.
Probably so, because I think I only played at Oregon Davis maybe one time.
Yeah. Because our listeners have to remember, in 1970, this was the early years of all the consolidations, and West Central had only been in existence like 2 or 3 years.
Right. That was. I sure wish that game was on film. I sure would like to see it.
So, what was the second most memorable game?
Well, I played basketball before the three-point shot, unfortunately.
Right.
And I had a very long range, and that's why I got so many scholarship offers out of high school for major colleges just to break zones, to shoot over zones, even without the three-pointer,
Yeah.
But I played a game, I think it was my 3rd or 4th game my senior year. I got fouled and made a three-pointer to end the third quarter with 39 points. And Coach Brad Mitchell sat me down. I didn't play the fourth quarter. Remember, this is, I think, what are we playing? 8-minute quarters.
Right.
with no 3-point shots, and I had 39. We were only ahead by like maybe 20 points. I mean, it wasn't like we were totally blowing North Newton out, but I kind of wish he would have left me in there to see if I could get 50, which is I think a pretty rare thing to do in the state of Indiana without the 3-point shot.
Right.
But that's probably the. Well, I mean, I don't know. There's so many wonderful memories playing basketball. I'm going to add a third one there if I got time. Southmore. We went up against Rensselaer in Maderaeville there, and Rensselaer, I believe, was like ranked 6th in the state, and they had a scorer named Ron Fenwick, I believe his name was, and he was a really high scorer. And Coach Mitchell, this is my sophomore year, he said, we can't play with these guys. He said, so we're gonna sit on it. And so this is when they jump balled every quarter. They got the tip, they went down, scored. We went down. We probably stalled for about, I'm guessing, like 3 or 4 minutes. They let us do it, which was kind of surprising. Then they stole the ball, and they went down and took a 4-0 lead. And we went down, and we did not shoot till about, I'm going to guess, less than 20 seconds to go in the quarter. They found me underneath. I laid it in. It was 4-2, and the gym went crazy. And they ended the first quarter at 4-2. And I knew that Ron, that this Fenwick character was probably going crazy because he was averaging, he might have been averaging close to 30 points a game. He went on to play the Citadel or someplace, but I mean he was really good. To make a long story short, they got the tap again and went up 6-2. We came down and stalled or something. They stole it, went up to 8-2, and Coach Mitchell called timeout and said, "Okay, let's play with them." I think they beat us 66-46, and I think Ron still probably got 25 points.
You mentioned Brad Mitchell. He was one of the first coaches that we had on our Saturday show back when we went on the air back in 1969-70, and one of the real characters I've ever met in coaching.
Yeah, I really liked him. I think he exploited me. He used me because after my senior year, he went on to coach like the second biggest high school, I think, in North Carolina, something like that.
Yeah, it was South Carolina, and actually went to the finals.
Oh wow! Yeah, I really liked him. I liked all my coaches in high school, but Brad was he was quite a character, and I liked he called the timeouts and he'd say, "Get Phil the ball, just get Phil the ball, okay?" And I didn't mind that,
Yeah. Well, you were fortunate because you played with some pretty good athletes there at West Central in those days.
Yeah, I did, with the exception maybe my senior year. I mean, my senior year, I saw nothing but boxing ones almost every night. But my sophomore and junior year, we had some pretty competitive teams. That sophomore year, we had a really good team, and there was a guy messing around in the PE class. We were doing like flips, where they'd be on the ground, you'd jump on his knees, and he'd flip you and turn, and you'd flip over. He pushed me too hard, and I pulled my ligaments in my ankle right in the middle of the season. And Brad, that was like on a Tuesday or something, and we iced that thing down, and we were just absolutely hurt for like 4 or 5 days until the Friday game or whatever. And I tried to play, but I had that ligament pain for about a decade after that. But there was no way I could play. I tried to play a couple of games, and I couldn't move laterally, and they took me out pretty quick. But it's that was unfortunate. I think that was probably the best team I played on. I think when we had I think his name was Mark Whittaker or somebody, was just so fast, and he just probably led the state in steals. My senior year, I had quite a few pretty memorable coaches come to the tiny city of Francisville to recruit me.
Who were some of those coaches?
One was Ray Mears, who was the head coach at Tennessee, and I believe he was the winningest coach in America at the time. And I think he came into my house, and we're in the kitchen. My mom said to Ray, I don't mind him playing basketball, but could you get him to mow the yard? And Ray Mears says, He says, "Ma'am," he says, hire somebody to mow the yard. Just let him keep shooting baskets, and I'd love to have him come to Tennessee." And that was one coach I remember, and there was another. I think it was Gary Colson was his name, from Pepperdine, which is a school I really wanted to go to. Actually, we had somebody got killed during the week in a car accident. I think a few students. Yeah, I think we went to Frontier. This was my senior year. Colson from Pepperdine, the head coach, showed up and watched the game, but there were either no fans, and the cheerleaders were there, but they didn't cheer. It was a game. It's very reminiscent of playing a game during COVID because it was so surreal. I remember I got 30-some points that night, and Colson offered me a full ride on the spot after the game, and I wanted to go to Pepperdine, and Pepperdine started sending me all sorts of brochures and everything, and my mom, who was more influential at selecting where I did go, she said, "There's too many drugs and too much partying going on in California."
Well, interestingly enough, on that same tour, that Pepperdine coach also talked with a guy by the name of Denny Garland, who was a 6'5" beast for the Knox Redskins that same year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he was making the tour.
Yep, absolutely. They love those Indiana ball players. That's for sure.